to Nudie as Mastermind. Today I have a guest, which I'm super excited about. I've known this guy for probably a decade now, and he's extraordinary. We'll get into it, but I want to welcome Ben Teerlink to the show today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm super pumped to have good conversations with you and get to know more of your stories, because I know there's probably many that we can talk about. But before we do that, I just want to start off with thanking you for being here today. I know you're super busy. I know you guys have big projects right now.
Sure.
But Ben is someone who, we met over probably about a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
We used to work in the same building.
We did.
You were down the hall. Ben started a company a few years ago called Mobility RE, and which he'll probably talk about in a little bit. But he was down the hall from me. I was still an escrow officer at a title company, and I think one day you just walked in and needed a closing.
Yeah. So I think it was our one and only at the time web developer was like, "Hey, can you help me? I want to buy a house." And I still had my license active. I'll make sure I'll do your paperwork. And then he's like, "All right, well, where should we close?" And I was like, "Look, this is super convenient. Across the hall. Let's just walk across and see who can help us." And there you were. So
and that's how we met.
That's how we met.
And then I remember a few months down the road, I came to you and I was putting a mastermind together of what I was calling Millionaire Mastermind of Young Entrepreneurs. And there were all these qualifications you had to have. You had to be under 40. Mm-hmm. You had to make a certain amount of money. Anyway, it was actually, the mastermind ended up being wonderful, but I remember coming and asking you about it. And that's kind of where we started.
That's it.
Building a relationship. And there's just been so many just things in alignment with each other, you were, I ran into you at Protein Foundry.
Yeah.
And I was telling you how I was going to expand into California, that I had some possible partners, and I started asking more questions, and little did we know that we were working with some of the same people, and just lots of alignment. And we can go on and on about some of the things we've been able to support each other on. But Ben is this guy. The reason I really wanted him to share his story today is because Ben has really built an empire, and he is super uber successful. But something that I've always loved about Ben is that he's never been a guy that's flashing everything. You're super modest. You're kind of just succeeding at high levels in a very underground
low-key way.
way.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm like, man, it's just really cool in a way to see you just thriving and really being fulfilled in life and not being so worried, especially in our industry, right? You were in real estate, where there's so much of that flashiness. And so tell me a little bit about that part. Let's start there.
That's very nice of you. And I appreciate that. And I think you go through phases in your career. I know that I did, as a real estate agent, getting into the business early. I think I was in my early 20s. I think I was 25 when I got my license and started selling. We built up a team, and, I would go into listing appointments. I'd go to meet with clients. And I remember several times people were like, "Is your dad coming?" Or is I think still I get ID'd, to go in somewhere. I just, apparently didn't look old enough to be selling their house. So, I would try to do other things to either look like I knew what I was doing or that I had been successful. So it might be the cars or what I was wearing. I remember wearing a tie every day, and, then copying grief from other agents like, "Hey, how's that tie working out for you?" And so I think there were moments where you try to kind of prove something or put on that front that, "Hey, I'm successful," or "I'm, doing this and I can now, do these things." But I think over time, obviously, the recession hit, and that was a huge bite of humble pie, because all of a sudden it's like, "Hey, I'm rolling. I got all these things going." And then, you have to kind of take a second look at it. Yeah. But in doing that, I think seeing both sides of, having a lot of success and instantly wondering who turned the faucet off and how you're going to make it and what you're going to do, kind of gave me a different perspective on things of, if you are successful, you can enjoy that a lot, but often, people don't want you rubbing it in their face, and so I think it's kind of cool to be able to have success and help others to succeed, but change focus of not needing to try to flaunt it, but more just be happy with, what you're able to do and focus on growing it more instead of what everyone else is going to think about you.
That's so good. I love what you said, like focus on being happy. And that's what kind of the show is all about, is success and fulfillment, because why would you have all the success if you're not happy or
Right.
finding joy in what you do every day? And so the fact that that's become a priority to you and helping others in the journey is an obvious result of why you are successful. And so tell us a little bit more of perhaps your passion in helping other people grow, as well as just how you built your company.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of how we started and what we did, selling houses, kind of building up that team. And, this was what, 2007, 2006. And, we were selling a bunch of houses. We felt pretty good about ourselves, selling over 100 homes in a year, and, felt like we were really cranking. I look at what people are doing today, and we were small, time compared to what people are doing. But as we started building that up, we just felt like a lot of the technologies and tools that agents were using were kind of antiquated and not all that effective. And so we thought, there's got to be something better. We had all these 1-800 like call capture signs. We're getting so many leads, we thought they were awesome. But all the leads we were getting, people would be like, oh, can you email me photos? I was like, oh my gosh, we'd have to go back to the office, trying to upload some photos, email it over to them. By the time we followed up, people were like, what? We don't even remember what house. We called on like 20 houses. So we started building some stuff that we thought would be cool for ourselves. And as we did that, it gained some traction within our own brokerage. And then we had some other large, at the time it was Prudential, which is now obviously Berkshire, in other states say, hey, this is really cool. But, we'd like to use it. So kind of shifted this mindset of, you go sell a house and it's awesome and you get a nice check, but then you got to go recreate that and go sell another house. And, there's a grind there that, you feel really good about that closing, but then it's kind of that panic of where's the next one coming from? Yeah. And so as we started kind of building this technology and seeing that it had some traction, I loved the concept of you sell them on at once, they love it, and they pay that subscription month after month. So I thought it'd be really cool to have real estate sales going in our team, but on the side, maybe have a little tech company that could create some recurring revenue. So that was kind of the idea and concept. And obviously recession hit and a lot of our builders and developers were struggling. So we thought, well, let's jump in full time. Let's just go for it.
Wow.
No one's buying any houses. So we started to just kind of go for it, leased some space, and here we are.
You went from real estate to tech.
Yeah, moved like building across the stream here, and that's about it, and into tech, and didn't know what we were doing. And it was trial and error, and outsourcing developers, and then saying, this is tough, why don't we hire some, and brought them in-house. And
so you had the vision and you knew what was needed. So the need was there, the vision was there, but you obviously just didn't have like the engineering behind it, the coding, any of that.
I
and
wish.
Just hired that out. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think it made it really kind of unique for us because so many, I think, real estate and mortgage tech companies came from the tech perspective and not really from people in the industry. So, when it really came down to would someone use this, they would use ours because it came from that agent mindset of this would be helpful. This would make me, more efficient, or it would help, convert more deals. And so started kind of building it with that in mind. And, over time, pivoted a few times, tried to figure out, hey, is it better to go directly to an agent and bill them? Is it easier to have a brokerage, pay and not have to go collect a credit card from every agent? Or, can we work with a lender that then makes introductions to real estate offices? And so, as you kind of keep going, you find opportunities, and you have to pivot here and there. And we did, and, ended up pretty different direction from where we first started. But some of that core, concepts from the beginning are still there. But, now we're kind of doing another real estate tech thing, and much more effective. And so here we are, 13 years later, and it's pretty fun. So
Can you give us a little more detail what's currently going on? Or
so we let's think here. So we kind of self-funded this thing for 3 or 4 years. Got to a point where we thought, all right, we need to really grow and expand, and got to a point where time was not on our side, saying, all right, there's not a whole lot more we can dump into this. We got to bring on a partner. So we did that in probably 2012, 2013. And partner, came in and helped at the time because they brought funds, but really didn't understand, I don't think, the space as well as we would have thought, or, the direction that we wanted to go. And so for 5 years, we had growth, but really lost that whole
initial vision
and the really being able to create new stuff and try different things. It was kind of, hey, here's the deal, this is it. And
did you feel that your innovation and creativity got totally stalled?
Just completely stopped.
Shut down.
Yeah. And so it took the fun out of it. And you kind of start
talk about fulfillment. That would be
right.
Inside you're feeling like you're probably dying.
Absolutely. And you come in each day and you're like, well, this isn't fun anymore, and we can't do this, and sales are kind of stalled out, and what are we going to do? So it was mid 2017 that we were like, we got to change something. So we went to that partner and said, hey, look, why don't we buy you out, and we're going to kind of go this direction. And
how did that combo go? This is really interesting, right? Because people are always concerned of partnerships.
So we had a potential buyer interested.
Nice.
And, we thought, okay, well, if this works, great. Everyone's happy, and waiting on kind of that deal to come together. And all of a sudden we got a call, and that buyer's like, hey, you know what, let's partner for 6 months instead. Let's prove it out and see if that works. And this partner was like, nope, that's it. We're just going to kind of unload it and sell it to this other group out of California. And it was just this eye opener for me of, I've put at that point, 7, 8 years of my life into it. All of a sudden this is going to go to some group in California. It's not really going to give me much of a go forward future. And you kind of panic of, am I going to have to start over? What am I going to, do? So that was when, I went to a friend and actual client and said, hey, I have an idea. This is really a good base here and core, but there's some ideas that we could expand on this and go this other direction. Why don't we just buy this group out and go do what we want to do? And so we did that, and it all panned out. And, I'm grateful to the group that was our initial kind of investor and partner that said, all right, that's fine, go ahead. Instead of selling it to the other group in California, they said, we'll let you do your thing, and bought them out. And, that was September of 17.
Wow.
And, we started kind of creating new space. It was, a pivot at that point to say, let's create some other tools, maybe focus it more on mortgage companies, how they can recruit more agents, and work with them, how we can also help title companies and, everyone else. And just found that we created a really pretty cool new technology. And so in talking to a couple of different lenders we had worked with in the past, said, is this something that you'd pay for? How much would you pay for it? Do you like it? And to see this reaction of we've wanted something like this forever. No one's done this. This is really cool. All of a sudden, we're cranking and growing.
Explosion.
It did. And so,
That's amazing.
within a year of, creating that new thing, it basically lapped, 7 or 8 years worth of, revenue from previous.
Wow.
And then to see
That's incredible.
over, I know it was
That's
awesome,
amazing.
but it was also kind of like, wow, like really, like you hit your head against the wall for 7, 8 years. And then you just keep at it and you look for, what could we do to improve it? What
Okay,
can we do
this is so
better?
fascinating. I don't want to move on from this because this is seriously like brings so much excitement in my body. Like this is such a great example of an entrepreneur journey, and this is why so many businesses fail with the first few years, because they're not willing to, first of all, go through it, the consistency of building a company. And you just said one of the most important things I think I've ever heard. You just kept pivoting and found something that you tweaked just a little bit, found a new need, and that's when it exploded for you.
Right. That's exactly. And it was, I think as an entrepreneur, you can get frustrated as you think, hey, I've got this awesome idea. You start creating it and it's just not taking off the way that you would hope. I think it's easy to be like, well, scrap it and move on, I'm done, or get frustrated. But like you said, it was just this continual adjusting and pivoting slightly to say, well, what would be more effective? Or let's try this. And maybe this would be, better. How can we improve it? And then you find that, little niche and it's like, oh, wow, people love this. This is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. And then to see it just kind of take off. Quickly you realize, all right, we've got something. This is awesome. Let's expand on this. Let's keep going. And so, that was a very cool moment when we realized, this is way cool. But part of it too was
you're finally able to like celebrate and all of the heart. And that's the thing is people always see the success, like, oh, you have a great life. You have such a cool lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, but it's
it was
you only say the 7 years of business, but before that you were also hustling. Like there's so much in the previous years for you to get to that point. And that's the one thing I always talk about it never came overnight. It was so much hard work, and you like falling down, I'm sure, facing so many hardships, even your old partners, to get to where you are now today.
It's so true. You fail over and over and over again. And, it really kind of turns you into who you are. And, sometimes you don't realize why it is you're going through what you're going through and why it's not working the way that you wanted it to. But all of a sudden you come out the other end and it's like, okay, I learned this, and this.
Wow.
And, we'll do things differently because I learned, here and here.
And would you do anything? Would you have changed anything like in your journey? Would you have, if you now looking back, would you still have done all the things that you did to get you to where you are today?
Yeah. It's funny because if you could cut out some heartache, often you think like, yeah, I'd definitely do that. Like, those were rough days, like it was tough when you wondered, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do this? But then I think in reality, that's what turns you into who you are. And so would I take away those days? Probably not, I also feel like when, your back's against the wall and it's like, hey, this is it. It's do or die here. It lets you kind of go next level and say, all right, I'm going for it. And I'm not going to stop because I don't have any other choices. And so, I would say
that's powerful.
Yeah. I don't think I would change anything.
It's amazing.
Because it shapes you into who you are, So anyway,
amazing.
That was it. And, now we've been able to expand and bring on additional people that can, help us grow it and, continue to enhance the products and platform. And, so it is a lot more fun now. And, you do have the successful, happy, exciting days. There's still challenges, but
of course.
But it's a different scale,
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So is the product you have something that you can talk about in selling, or is this just at a massive level where if someone was interested in some of the things you've been talking about, is there a way they could reach out to you to learn more about it? So it's mainly the lending world and title.
Yeah.
Right?
So we now work with 300 mortgage companies on an enterprise level to subscribe, use our product. So a lot of lenders are utilizing it and having success with it. I think 20 out of the top 25 lenders, utilize the platform, which is very cool.
And in a roundabout way,
mhm.
the platform really allows them to have access to information of real estate agents.
Yeah. So we basically took all the data that's been out there for years and years, but compiled it all into one spot and made it easy to navigate. So kind of a nice user experience to say, hey, which lenders are doing the volume here, which agents are doing volume here, which title company are they sending that volume to, who's doing what, who should I be having conversations with, who do I take golfing every weekend and doesn't do a whole lot within this space, and maybe we should be looking at doing some other things together. So it's really been kind of just that helpful insight of
so intentional
everything that's going on. Yeah. And it's helpful, I think, for all parties, even for an agent to look and say, wow, this lender does the exact deals that a lot of my clients would need. I'm going to go talk with them. And same with, this loan officer, works in an area, and this is the agent that does the most business there. So now I know that I'm going to go talk to that agent and, we'll work together. So it's kind of been is to put that one spot, where everything's in there and make it easy to navigate. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So if someone was more interested in learning about that, how could they reach you, or where do they go?
Yeah. So they can go to mmi.io. That's our website. We just put that new URL together, and it's been good. So it'll give you some videos, kind of some information, email support, sales.
You'll see why it exploded.
That's it.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so, okay, coming back to your story. So now you're finally able to really enjoy, all of your hard work, and you're in a place where it's so successful and everything. So what is the next thing for you?
Yeah. So that's a good question. And I think you focus for so long on just making your business work, and, can we succeed and, bring in enough that it makes sense and it pays everybody. And then when you have that success, all of a sudden you start realizing, okay, like, what is next? What do we do? And so for us, we're having fun still. We love innovating. We love creating new things. So, we continue to partner up with other technologies. We continue to innovate and create. But, I think more on a personal level for me now, this is, fun. I enjoy that. I want to continue to do that. But I also like to look for, now what are things that I can do to help others, and to, find cool opportunities that, can help others along their journey, and so that's been something that, we're starting to do, and it's just a cool feeling. I think there were mentors and people for me along the way that I watched and learned from, and not that, we are that, but, you've been through a few things, and you can kind of say, hey, this would be helpful if we did this, or if we did this, maybe this would help you. So that's been kind of a cool thing for us to do a little bit. But,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So personally, doing a little of that. I think for the business, just continue to grow it. You get a lot of interest of other people saying, hey, this would fit nicely with what we're doing, or we could do this or that. But for us, it's still kind of, we're having fun, and we want to keep going and do our thing. So
I love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What would you tell your 21-year-old self?
Oh, I think just hunker down and just power through, because there were days where, I would think to myself, what am I doing? Like, why am I putting myself through this?
Yeah, I've had plenty of
Right.
those. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it would be like, if I could go back, I'd say, hey, for those days that are going to be the dark, rough, scary days, know that it's going to be okay, but you just got to power through and figure out, how to do it. So I think it would just be that stick with it, keep going.
Yeah.
I think that would be a big part of it. And I'd probably tell myself too, hey, forget the show. You don't need to put on a show for everyone else. I think I probably wasted a lot of time back in the day when I was selling houses, trying to put that side of it on. If I focused it more on growing the business, probably would have been better. So maybe that's my advice, and stick with it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So and maybe this is, the part where we can wrap up the show today, but it's so powerful what you said about what you tell the first part. Well, both of them were amazing, but the first part that you just power through, because there are those days where you really feel like, what am I going to do? Or what am I even doing here?
Yeah.
Where it really rocks you. And what do you feel helped you continue? Because this is my thing.
Yeah.
And my observation of being in business for a while, and when I see people that unfortunately don't continue with their business, or they close the doors or whatever, it's just always so sad to me, because I know what it takes.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Right.
So my heart always goes out. But at the same time, I also know that when you don't have a bigger purpose, when you don't have a bigger why of what your product is, or your company, or your services, those days when you do feel like the days we've had, it's really hard to push through, because it's not enough.
Right.
And so can you share with us, on those moments that were so hard, what kept you going? Like, what was the reason behind it and the why?
Yeah. So I think all growing up, like, this probably doesn't sound good. I have a hard time with no, it's like, well, this isn't going to work, or you can't do that. And it was like,
challenges you.
Yeah, I can. Like, wait a minute. Like, but if I do it this way, maybe I can. Or what about this? I'm sure I drove my parents crazy, because it would be like, can I do this? No. Well, what if I did this, this, and this? Well, okay, fine. Maybe it was just a way for them to have me go away and not bug them anymore. But it, I think, was similar with growing a business. You'd run into a wall, and it would be really, really frustrating. But for me, I don't know why, but it was just, I can't just stop. Like, I've gone this far, and I got to figure out another way to go about it. So, it was just that I can't drop what I've been doing. I need to figure it out, but I got to find another way. So instead of getting completely discouraged and quitting, it's just kind of like back to the drawing board of, okay, I ran into the wall here, and this is why. What could I do that would work, that would solve this? And, I think that can be with really small little things that you deal with on a daily basis, but it can also be some of the bigger, things. And focusing then on like the positive parts of it, and, well, what could I do to then make this work? And then do it. Don't just sit there and be sad, or sit there and be frustrated. It's all right. Well, now I got to go do this, and maybe that'll help. So I think that's a big part.
You always wanted to find a way. Like, there was never even when the moment felt so heavy, you knew that there were other options, and you were smart. You've always been smart enough to get yourself outside of the moment, look at the bigger picture, and find solutions. And wow, of course, that's why you are where you are at today, because it's not giving up on like, oh, this is a hard problem, I don't know what to do, shut it down. No, there's always more than one possibility. So I love that about you.
Yeah, no, and I think that's it. That can be in so many different ways, that don't just turn it off, figure another way to do it. That may not be how you thought you were going to do it initially, but go figure out another way. So
resourceful.
Resourceful,
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could talk so much more, because I'm like wanting to even dig deeper into all these other stories and parts, but I know we only have so much time and it's almost the new year, but I would love to end it with just you sharing some final advice for our listeners. Most of the people are in real estate or are entrepreneurs. And so what would be how you want to end our show for today?
Yeah, well, first, I want to say thanks for letting me come on here and, chat with you. It's been awesome to watch everything that you're doing. And like you said at the very beginning, a lot of similar things, same path, running into each other in the space with, people in common and, building businesses. So thanks for having me on here.
Yes,
I should be asking you all the questions.
No.
It's really how we should do this. But, I would say just advice to those out there, like growing your own business. And I think really in real estate, that's it. You're your own person. I think starting a title company, being a loan officer, all these things, you kind of need to be that self-motivator, that you're going to get up and you're going to grind, and it's not going to be easy. But, I look at this industry and, so many times, even our employees will look at agents and lenders and think, what, they close this much volume and they make how much? And it's just so cool that it is an industry that you can be so successful. But I think it's a matter of like committing to it and giving it everything you've got, and don't get discouraged, stick with it. It's that work ethic, not giving up. And at the same time, you're helping people accomplish getting into a home and, things that
So
really set them
rewarding.
up. It's very rewarding, So I would just say that get up, grind, go for it, make it through the tough times, and you'll be glad you did in the end, but surround yourself with people with that same mindset. The team that you're with, I couldn't have done what I've done without solid people around me that, had the same belief or drive, or at least would support and say, all right, you do that. But there are things that I'm not good at, and they are. And so putting that together and say, look, I need to surround myself here in that support group and just get after it, and it'll work.
100%. I love it. Some great nuggets there for any of you who are listening to our show. And again, I just want to thank you once again for being here. And I've learned from you today. I'm sure all of you have as well. And so like Ben said, just keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. And and just drop your website one more time.
Yeah. So it's MMI.io.
IO. That's the difference. That's right the difference.
There. Not .com, right? .io. That's it.
Awesome.
Thanks
for being here today. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you next time.